Jake Harris had been hauling cargo across the Andromeda trade routes for 3 years, and in all that time, he had successfully avoided one critical aspect of galactic employment, the mandatory medical examination. But corporate had finally caught up with him, and now here he was, sitting in the waiting room of Orbital Medical Station Kepler-22, surrounded by aliens who looked like they'd raided a discount Halloween store. Harris, Jake, human, Earth origin, the receptionist called out, her 4 eye stalks swiveling to locate him in the crowd. Jake stood up, his 6-foot frame causing several smaller aliens to skitter away nervously. He'd gotten used to that reaction. Apparently, humans had a reputation out here, though he'd never quite figured out why. He was just a cargo pilot who enjoyed pepperoni pizza and binge-watching old sitcoms. Not exactly terrifying. The receptionist directed him to examination room 7, where he found himself face to thorax with Dr. Velthus, an insectoid physician whose compound eyes reflected Jake's image about 1,000 times over. The doctor's translator hummed to life with a cheerful chime. "Ah, wonderful. My first human patient, Dr. Velthus said, mandibles clicking with what Jake hoped was excitement and not hunger. "I have been studying your species for weeks in preparation. Very straightforward biology. Carbon-based, bilateral symmetry, standard respiratory system. Nothing I have not seen before." Jake settled onto the examination table, which immediately groaned under his weight. "Yeah, we're pretty boring, honestly. Just need the clearance stamp so corporate stops sending me angry messages." Of course. Simple procedure. Now, I will need your complete medical history transferred from your homeworld database. Just a formality. Doctor." Velthus tapped at a holographic display with one of his 6 limbs, his movements precise and confident. "Sure thing, Doc. Fair warning, though. It's pretty extensive. I broke my arm. Skateboarding when I was 12, had my appendix out at 19, the usual stuff." Jake pulled up his datapad and initiated the transfer protocol. Dr. Velthus waved a dismissive claw. "I am sure it is all perfectly routine. The Galactic Medical Council has standardized protocols for over 40,000 species. Humans are, number 8,312 on the registry. Nothing special." The file began downloading, and Jake noticed Dr. Velthus's antennae perk up as the progress bar crawled across the screen. 10%, 20%. Then the screen flashed red. "Huh," Jake said, leaning forward. "That's weird. Warning. Classified material detected. Deathworld Protocol active. Level 9 clearance required." Dr. Velthus's translator made a sound like a computer crashing. His compound eyes seemed to dilate, if that was even possible for an insect alien. What? This must be an error. Deathworld Protocol? Jake scratched his head. Is that like a virus? Scan or something? I swear I don't have any space diseases, Doc. I feel fine. The examination room door slid open with an urgent hiss, and a gelatinous blob creature oozed in with remarkable speed. Jake recognized the species, a Glorbanian administrator. This one wore a small nameplate that read, Quern Station Administrator, embedded in its translucent surface. Who initiated a Level 9 security download? Quern's voice bubbled out, literally. Do you have any idea what kind of paperwork this generates? The Galactic Medical Council is already sending inquiry forms. It's just my medical records, Jake said, raising his hands defensively. From Earth. I need them for the physical. Quern's entire mass quivered. Earth. Oh, stars preserve us. Dr. Velthus, did you not check the species classification before agreeing to this appointment? He said humans were boring. Dr. Velthus's antennae were now flat against his head, a sign Jake had learned meant distress. The preliminary data said standard biology. Preliminary data is filtered for civilian access. Quern jiggled with agitation. The full files are classified because your species is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld survivor species. The only thing more dangerous to examine would be a Kralox war beast, and those are extinct because they ate each other. Jake blinked. I'm sorry. A what now? Deathworld, Quern repeated, somehow managing to sound condescending while being a sentient blob. A planet classified as actively hostile to life. Your Earth scores a 12.7 on the Galactic Habitability Index. Anything below 15 is considered a death trap. For context, the average civilized world scores between 40 and 60. Jake felt like he'd missed several steps in this conversation. Actively hostile? Earth? We've got beaches and parks and everything. Sure, there's the occasional hurricane, but we have weather apps for that. Dr. Velthus had pulled up a secondary screen and was scrolling through what looked like a threat assessment report. His mandibles clacked nervously. According to this, your planet has extreme temperature variations, excessive seismic activity, frequent severe weather events, dangerous levels of solar radiation, and a biosphere filled with venomous and predatory species. Oh, and your atmosphere has 21% oxygen, that is flammable levels of oxygen. Who approved this as a habitable zone? I mean, we breathe it just fine, Jake said, feeling oddly defensive about his home planet. And yeah, Australia has some weird spiders, but you just avoid those. Just avoid those, Quern echoed flatly. He says just avoid the lethal fauna, as if it is a minor inconvenience. The download completed with a chime that sounded almost ominous in the tense silence. Dr. Velthus stared at the screen. Then his translator made that crashing sound again. Then he stared some more. Perhaps, the doctor said slowly, we should simply stamp the clearance form and move on. No need for a thorough examination. I am sure you are perfectly healthy. Oh no, Quern burbled, flowing closer to the screen. Oh no. If a human gets sick and we miss something, the liability insurance will bankrupt this entire station. We have to process the file. Galactic Medical Council Regulations, Section 47, Subsection 93. But the file is 347 pages long, Dr. Velthus protested, his voice climbing an octave. The average species has 12 pages. What could possibly require 347 pages? Jake shrugged. I played a lot of sports as a kid. Got into a few scrapes. Oh, and there was that time I got mono in college and couldn't taste anything for like 2 weeks. That was weird. Dr. Velthus pulled up the first page, which appeared to be an index. Just an index. His antennae drooped. This is organized by biological system. There are subsections for skeletal trauma, muscular trauma, integumentary trauma, which I assume is your skin, immune system responses, voluntary medical interventions, and something called extreme survival events, with a footnote that says, see Appendix B through Q. Appendices B through Q, Quern corrected, jiggling with what might have been morbid fascination. There are 16 appendices, for supplementary survival events. Look, I'm a pretty average human, Jake said, trying to be helpful. I've never even been hospitalized for anything serious. Well, except the appendix thing, but that was outpatient surgery. I was home the same day. Dr. Velthus's compound eyes somehow managed to convey pure horror despite being, well, compound eyes. You had an internal organ removed and went home the same day? What kind of regeneration capability does your species possess? I mean, we don't regenerate exactly. It just healed, with stitches. Normal healing. Normal, Dr. Velthus repeated weakly. Quern had begun pulsating in a way that suggested they were settling in for a long afternoon. Doctor, I suggest you start reading. I will begin filing the incident reports. All of them. How many incident reports are we talking about? Jake asked. Currently, 17, but we are only on page 1 of your medical history. Doctor, Velthus clicked open the first entry, which was labeled, Childhood Illnesses, ages 0 to 5. His translator hiccuped. Mr. Harris, at age 3, you apparently survived a body temperature of 40 degrees Celsius. That is the temperature we use to sterilize medical equipment. How are you alive? Jake frowned, doing the mental conversion. Oh, you mean 104 Fahrenheit? Yeah, that's just a bad fever. My mom gave me some medicine and I was fine in a couple days. The doctor's antennae were trembling now. A couple of days. You survived cooking temperatures for multiple days. I wasn't being cooked. I was sick. These are the same thing from where I am standing. This was going to take a while. Dr. Velthus scrolled through the childhood illnesses section with the grim determination of someone defusing a bomb. Every few seconds, his translator would emit a distressed chirp, which Jake was beginning to realize was the insectoid equivalent of a nervous breakdown. Varicella zoster virus, age 7. The doctor read aloud. You were infected with a disease that caused pustules across your entire body, fever, and extreme itching. Treatment was oatmeal baths and calamine lotion. He looked up at Jake with what might have been accusation. This was not treated with gene therapy or cellular regeneration? It's chickenpox, Doc. Everybody gets it. Well, got it. We have a vaccine now. Jake was starting to feel like he'd accidentally committed some kind of crime. It itched like crazy, but you're not supposed to scratch, or you get scars. You let children suffer through a plague as a rite of passage, Quern observed, their gelatinous form rippling with disbelief. Your species allows infants to contract disfiguring diseases for cultural reasons. No, it's not cultural. It's just, look, we have immune systems. They learn from getting sick. It's how biology works. Dr. Velthus had gone very still. Your immune systems learn, as in, they adapt, to diseases, while you are infected with said diseases. Yeah? Mr. Harris, most species die when exposed to novel pathogens. Their immune systems either overreact and kill the host, or fail to react and the pathogen kills the host. The idea that your internal defense network can be trained like some sort of military forces. He trailed off, mandibles clicking rapidly. How many diseases have you survived? Jake tried to count. I mean, define survived. I've had the flu a few times, couple of colds every year, food poisoning from that sketchy taco truck, strep throat in high school, got mono like I mentioned. Stop. Please stop talking. Dr. Velthus had pulled up a new window and was typing frantically. Quern, we need to add a biological hazard classification to this file. He is a walking disease reservoir. I'm healthy. I got tested before I left Earth. You said you get multiple respiratory infections per year and consider this normal. Well, yeah, everybody does. It's called cold and flu season. Quern made a bubbling sound that might have been a whimper. There is a season for plagues on your world. A regular, predictable season. Doctor, Velthus had moved on to the skeletal trauma section, and if Jake thought the doctor had been distressed before, it was nothing compared to now. Age 12, fractured radius, and ulna. Treatment was, they put your arm in a rigid cast and waited for the bones to fuse back together. On their own, using your body's natural processes. I mean, that's what bones do when they break, Jake said, wondering if maybe alien bones worked differently. It took like 6 weeks, and I had to get my friends to sign the cast. But, yeah, it healed. Your endoskeleton regenerated itself, Dr. Velthus said, his voice taking on a hollow quality. You possess regeneration capabilities for your structural framework, and you break these bones recreationally based on this note about skateboarding. Okay, the breaking part wasn't on purpose. Age 15, fractured clavicle from playing something called football. Age 16, hairline fracture in left foot from running. Age 17, 2 fractured ribs from boxing club. The doctor's antennae had completely flattened against his carapace. You participate in combat sports for entertainment where the objective is to damage your skeletal system? The objective isn't to break bones, Jake protested. That's just kind of a risk. A risk you take voluntarily. I mean, when you put it that way. And here, Dr. Velthus continued, scrolling faster now like he was watching a horror movie and couldn't look away. Age 19, appendectomy, surgical removal of an internal organ. You were given a neurotoxin called anesthesia that shut down your nervous system. Then a trained specialist cut through multiple layers of tissue, extracted a non-functional organ, sealed the wound with synthetic thread, and you were ambulatory within hours. I already told you about that one. You told me. You did not tell me that you voluntarily submitted to being poisoned, unconscious, and mutilated. Jake was really starting to regret not filling out the medical forms himself. It's not mutilation, it's surgery. The appendix was inflamed. It would have killed me if they didn't take it out. Dr. Velthus looked at Quern. Quern looked at Dr. Velthus. They seemed to be having a silent conversation that Jake wasn't privy to. Finally, Quern spoke. Mr. Harris, on your world, do medical professionals regularly cut into living bodies as a standard practice? Yeah? That's kind of what surgeons do. And the patients survive this. Most of the time. Yeah, I mean, there are risks, but surgery's pretty safe now. We've been doing it for like thousands of years. Dr. Velthus made a sound like air escaping from a balloon. Thousands of years. Of cutting into each other. For thousands of years. Are we almost done with the physical? Jake asked hopefully. I've got a cargo run scheduled in 4 hours. The doctor pulled up the next section. Dental history. He read the first line, and his translator made that crashing sound for the 3rd time that afternoon. You let creatures drill into your jawbones, he whispered. For maintenance. Jake had a feeling this was going to take longer than 4 hours. Dr. Velthus had moved past the dental records with what looked like psychological self-preservation, scrolling quickly through pages of root canals and wisdom teeth extractions, while muttering something in his native language that the translator refused to process. Jake suspected it was probably for the best. Immunization records, the doctor announced, his voice taking on the flat affect of someone who had moved beyond panic into acceptance of the abyss. Oh good. A nice, straightforward section. Surely this will be less traumatic than learning about your recreational bone-breaking habits. He opened the file. He read exactly 3 lines. His antennae shot straight up. You inject yourself with diseases, doctor, Velthis said, very quietly. On purpose. Multiple diseases, deliberately weakened but still viable pathogens introduced directly into your bloodstream as children. Vaccines, yeah, Jake confirmed. I've got the whole series. Measles, mumps, rubella, polio, tetanus, hepatitis, influenza. Stop naming plagues, Quern burbled urgently, their gelatinous form quivering. Just stop. Each one of those is a potential extinction-level pathogen for dozens of species. Jake held up his hands defensively. But that's why we get vaccinated, so we don't die from them. It's like we're training our immune systems to recognize the bad guys before they show up for real. Dr. Velthis had pulled up what appeared to be a comparative biology database. His mandibles clicked in rapid succession as he cross-referenced information. Let me see if I understand this correctly. Your species discovered that you could survive diseases better if you exposed yourself to smaller amounts first, training your immune response network to mount a faster defense upon subsequent exposure. Exactly. See, you get it. Mr. Harris, that is military strategy. You are describing an adaptive military defense system that lives inside your body. Every human has an internal biological army that learns from combat experience and improves its tactics. I guess that's one way to put it. The white blood cells alone, the doctor continued, reading faster now, his voice climbing in pitch. You have multiple types. Neutrophils that consume invaders, lymphocytes that coordinate attacks, memory cells that retain information about previous threats. For decades, your bodies maintain a standing military force numbering in the billions that patrols your bloodstream looking for threats to eliminate. Quern had oozed closer to the screen. And these immune responses, they can cause collateral damage to your own tissue, correct? This note here mentions something called anaphylaxis. Oh yeah, allergies, Jake said. Some people's immune systems are a bit overzealous. My buddy Tom can't eat peanuts or his throat swells shut. His own defense system tries to kill him because of a legume. Well, when you phrase it like that, it sounds bad. Doctor. Velthis had scrolled to a section titled, Acute Illness Events, Adult. His compound eyes somehow managed to look haunted. Age 23, food poisoning from salmonella. Symptoms included violent emesis, diarrhea, fever, and dehydration. Treatment was fluids and rest. You just waited it out. It was a bad weekend, Jake admitted. But yeah, it passed. You ingested a bacterial pathogen that hijacked your digestive system, causing your body to violently expel the contents of your gastrointestinal tract from both ends simultaneously. And your treatment plan was to drink water and take a nap? And some crackers. Saltines are good when you're nauseous. Quern was pulsating in what Jake had learned to recognize as extreme agitation. Doctor, scroll down. There's an entry for something called a hangover at age 21. Multiple instances. Dr. Velthis found the entries. He read in silence for a long moment. Mr. Harris, you voluntarily consumed ethanol, which is a poison, in sufficient quantities to impair your neurological function, suppress your immune system, and cause cellular damage to your liver. The aftereffects included headache, nausea, sensitivity to light and sound, and dehydration. And according to this, you did this repeatedly. For fun. Okay, in my defense, I was in college. That is not a defense. That is just a time frame for your self-poisoning. Behavior. Look, humans have been drinking alcohol for like 10,000 years. Our livers can process it, mostly, if you're responsible about it. Dr. Velthis pulled up a biological comparison chart. Your liver, this organ here, it filters toxins from your blood at a rate that would overwhelm most species' entire excretory systems. It can regenerate up to 75% of its own mass, and you regularly expose it to industrial solvents for recreational purposes. I wouldn't call beer an industrial solvent. Ethanol is used to sterilize medical equipment. Jake was beginning to see why humans had a reputation in the galaxy. Is this going to affect my clearance? Because I haven't had a drink in like 6 months. Space trucking keeps you pretty busy. Quern had been reviewing something on a separate display. Dr. Velthis, there's a note here in his vaccination records about something called the flu shot. It says he receives this annually. Annually. the doctor repeated. Weekly. As in, every year, he is re-exposed to influenza variants. It's a new shot every year because the flu mutates, Jake explained. Different strains and all that. Dr. Velthus's translator made a sound like a dying computer fan. The disease adapts, and so you adapt your defenses. You are in an active evolutionary arms race with a virus, and you consider this normal. I mean, I haven't had the flu in years, so I'd say we're winning. Winning, the doctor echoed. You think you are winning a biological war that has been ongoing for millennia. Aren't we, though? We're still here. Quern and Dr. Velthus exchanged another one of those silent looks. Jake was pretty sure he'd said something either really profound or really disturbing, and he honestly couldn't tell which. Doctor. Velthus closed the immunization file with a gesture that looked almost like defeat. I believe we need to move on to the physical examination portion before I lose what remains of my sanity. Surely your actual physical capabilities will be less horrifying than your medical history. Jake winced. About that, Doc. I should probably mention that Earth's gravity is about 1.3 times standard galactic, so I might be a bit stronger than your equipment is calibrated for. The doctor's antennae drooped so low they touched the examination table. Quern made a bubbling sound that was definitely a whimper this time. Dr. Velthus approached the physical examination with the enthusiasm of someone walking toward their own execution. He retrieved what looked like a handlebar attached to a display screen, apparently a grip strength tester, and offered it to Jake with a trembling claw. Standard procedure, the doctor said, his translator adding a slight warble to his words. Simply squeeze as hard as you comfortably can. The device will measure your dot. The device crunched in Jake's hand. Not broke exactly, but definitely crunched. The display flickered, showed a number that made Dr. Dot. Velthus's antennae stand straight up, then went dark with a sad little beep. I barely squeezed it, Jake said, genuinely apologetic. That was like maybe 30%. 30%, Doctor. Velthus repeated, staring at the mangled device. Quern, please note that the human exceeded the maximum measurement threshold of our equipment while exerting, in his estimation, less than half of his capacity. Quern had produced a datapad from somewhere within their gelatinous mass and was documenting everything with what seemed like morbid fascination. Noted, also noting that our grip strength tester is now filing an insurance claim. It's just gravity, Jake tried to explain. Earth's gravity is higher, so our muscles adapted to compensate. It's not like I'm super strong or anything. Back home, I'm pretty average. Doctor. Velthus had moved on to the reflex test, pulling out a small hammer. Please, just sit still. I am going to tap your patellar tendon and measure your reflexive response. Time. He tapped Jake's knee. Jake's leg kicked out in a normal, healthy reflex. Unfortunately, normal and healthy for a human meant the kick was fast enough that Dr. Velthus had to dodge backward, tripped over his own legs, all 6 of them, and ended up in an undignified heap on the floor. Sorry. Jake jumped off the table to help. Are you okay? Do not touch me, the doctor squeaked, scrambling away. Your reflexes operate at velocities designed for predator response scenarios. The average galactic citizen's neural transmission speed is 40 meters per second. Yours is apparently 120. Is that fast? It is faster than most species can perceive. Quern oozed between them diplomatically. Perhaps we should skip the reflex tests. Doctor, what about cardiovascular assessment? Dr. Velthus picked himself up, mandibles clicking in what Jake had learned meant embarrassment. Yes, fine. Mr. Harris, please step onto this treadmill. We will monitor your heart rate and respiration while you walk at a comfortable pace. Jake stepped onto the treadmill, which groaned ominously under his weight. The machine started at what was apparently a standard galactic walking speed, which for Jake was slower than his grandma's mall walking pace. Can we speed this up? He asked, after 30 seconds. This is like barely moving. Dr. Velthus increased the speed, then increased it again, and again. Jake had progressed from a slow walk to a light jog, and he wasn't even breathing hard. The doctor was staring at the cardiovascular readouts like they'd personally insulted him. Your resting heart rate is 70 beats per minute, he said slowly. That is within normal range for most species. But now, while performing sustained locomotion at speeds that would exhaust most galactic citizens within minutes, your heart rate has only elevated to 140 beats per minute, and you show no signs of distress. Yeah, I mean, this is just jogging. I do this. For fun sometimes. Clears the head. The translator made that crashing sound again. For fun. You perform voluntary sustained cardiovascular stress for entertainment purposes. It's called exercise, Doc. Keeps you healthy. Mister. Harris, Quern interjected, their form jiggling with curiosity. Why would you need to stay healthy if you already are healthy? Jake thought about this while jogging. I guess to stay healthy? Like, if you don't use your muscles, they get weaker, and cardio is good for your heart and lungs and stuff. Dr. Velthus had pulled up another chart. Let me see if I understand. Humans engage in deliberate physical stress to prevent muscular atrophy because your bodies are designed to operate at higher performance levels than your modern lifestyle requires. You are maintaining combat readiness despite not being in combat. I mean, I just do it so I don't get winded going upstairs, but sure. The doctor turned off the treadmill. Jake stepped off, barely sweating. Dr. Velthus looked at him, looked at the readouts, looked back at him. The gravity, the doctor said suddenly. You mentioned Earth has higher gravity. What is standard gravity on your world? 9.8 meters per second squared? That's just regular gravity. 1G. Dr. Velthus pulled up the station specifications. This station operates at 0.7 to 6 standard galactic units, which converts to approximately 7.5 meters per second squared. Mr. Harris, you have been operating in reduced gravity this entire time. Oh yeah, I noticed it was a bit floaty when I first got here. You get used to it pretty quick though. Floaty, Quern repeated. He has been carrying 30% more effective mass than his body is designed for his entire life, and he describes lower gravity as floaty. Doctor. Velthus had opened yet another file. There is a note here about adrenaline. Mr. Harris, what can you tell me about adrenaline? It's like an emergency hormone. Your body releases it when you're scared or excited. Makes you stronger and faster temporarily. Fight or flight response. The doctor's mandibles had stopped moving entirely. You have a built-in combat enhancement drug. In your adrenal glands, that activates automatically during stress. Yeah, pretty much. And it increases your strength, speed, pain tolerance, and reaction time. Yep, although it makes you kind of shaky afterward when it wears off. Dr. Velthus sat down heavily in his chair. Your species evolved on a death world with predators so dangerous that you developed an internal chemical warfare system that could be activated at a moment's notice. You are walking biological weapons platforms. We're really not that scary, Jake protested. I mean, sure. If you tried to attack me, I'd probably defend myself. But I'm not going to just randomly punch someone. Probably defend yourself, Quern echoed faintly. He says probably, as if there is uncertainty in his capacity for violence. Dr. Velthus had one more test in his arsenal. He held up what looked like a dental mirror with obvious reluctance. I need to perform an oral examination. Standard procedure. I just need to look at your teeth, and then we can be done with this nightmare of an appointment. Jake opened his mouth obediently. Doctor. Velthus shone a light inside, took one look at Jake's teeth, specifically his canines, and made a sound his translator couldn't even process. Omnivore, the doctor whispered. Apex predator dentition. You have grinding teeth for plants, and tearing teeth for meat. You can eat almost anything organic. I mean, not everything. I tried lutefisk once, and that was a mistake. What is lutefisk? Fish soaked in lye. You eat food preserved in caustic chemicals? It's a traditional dish. I'm just saying it's not for everyone. Dr. Velthus closed his examination kit with finality. We are done. This physical is over. You are cleared for duty, Mr. Harris. Please leave my examination room and never return. Jake blinked. Don't you need to finish you are cleared. Please go. Jake found himself standing in the corridor outside examination room 7, holding a freshly printed medical clearance badge that was approximately 3 times larger than the standard version. In bold, fluorescent lettering that was probably visible from space, it read, Deathworld Species, Clearance Level, 9, Approach with Caution. This seems excessive, Jake muttered, clipping it to his jacket next to his pilot's license, which suddenly looked very inadequate by comparison. The examination room door slid open and Quern oozed out, still clutching their datapad. Mr. Harris, before you leave, I need you to sign these liability waivers. Standard protocol for Class 12 species. Jake scrolled through the documents on the offered pad. Why do I need to waive liability for breathing near other species? Your exhalation contains oxygen concentrations that constitute a fire hazard in certain atmospheric conditions, Quern explained, with the patience of someone who had clearly given up on the universe making sense. Also, your skin naturally sheds approximately 40,000 dead cells per minute, each of which contains enough DNA to potentially contaminate sterile environments. You are, biologically speaking, a walking contamination event. I showered this morning, That is not as reassuring as you think it is. Jake signed the waivers, because apparently being human required more paperwork than piloting a cargo ship through asteroid fields. Through the still open door, he could see Dr. Velthus sitting at his desk, staring blankly at the wall while his antennae twitched randomly. Is he going to be okay? Jake asked. Eventually, Quern said, though they didn't sound convinced. This is his first exposure to Deathworld species documentation. He will adapt, or request a transfer. Probably the transfer. From inside the room, Dr. Velthus spoke, without turning around. Did you know that humans have a secondary brain in their digestive system? An entire neural network dedicated to processing food. They call it the enteric nervous system. They have 2 brains. That's not really a second brain, Doc. It's more like, do not explain it. I do not want to know. Quern gently guided Jake away from the door. Perhaps you should go, Mr. Harris. Your cargo run awaits. Jake checked his communicator and winced. Actually, I just remembered. I need to schedule my next dental cleaning. Do you know if there are any dentists on this station, or do I need to wait until I'm back on Earth? Behind them, there was a heavy thud as Dr. Velthus fell out of his chair. Quern's gelatinous form rippled with what might have been a sigh. Mr. Harris, after today's revelations, I do not believe any medical professional on this station will agree to put sharp instruments inside your mouth. The liability insurance alone would bankrupt us. It's just a cleaning. They scrape the plaque off and polish everything. Takes like 20 minutes. They scrape your bones with metal implements while you are conscious. Well, yeah, it'd be weird to be unconscious for it. Quern pulled up something on their data pad, their form jiggling with bureaucratic efficiency. I am implementing new station protocols effective immediately. All human medical records now require hazmat-level security clearance. All human medical procedures require a minimum of 3 liability waivers and a safety officer present. And all station personnel are to be informed that humans are classified as Deathworld survivors with extreme durability, regenerative capabilities, and voluntary self-destructive behaviors. That last part seems a bit harsh. You told me you jog for fun, Mr. Harris. You willingly exhaust yourself for entertainment. That is, by definition, voluntary self-destructive behavior. Jake couldn't really argue with that logic. Fair point. So, we're lasted. Good here? I can go? Please do. And Mr. Harris? Quern's translucent form seemed to darken slightly. In the future, perhaps lead with the fact that you are a Deathworld species. It would save everyone a considerable amount of stress. I honestly didn't know we were classified as Deathworld anything until today. I thought we were pretty standard. That, Quern said, is perhaps the most terrifying thing you have said all day. The fact that you consider all of this normal. Jake shrugged, adjusted his new oversized badge, and headed toward the docking bay. Behind him, he could hear Quern oozing back into the examination room, presumably to check on Dr. Velthus. As he walked, several aliens in the corridor saw his badge and immediately pressed themselves against the walls, giving him a wide berth. One of them, a small furry creature that looked like a teddy bear had a baby with a mushroom, actually squeaked and dove into a maintenance closet. I'm not going to hurt anyone, Jake called out, which only seemed to make things worse. By the time he reached his ship, the Rust Bucket, a modified cargo hauler that had seen better decades, he had been given emergency clearance to depart immediately. Apparently, the station administrator wanted him off Kepler 2-2 as quickly as possible. As he fired up the engines and began his departure sequence, his communicator chimed with a message from corporate. He pulled it up on the screen, expecting another complaint about his overdue medical examination. Instead, it was a congratulations notice. Apparently, he was the first human pilot to complete the mandatory physical examination at a non-Earth facility in over 3 years. Every other human had either been rejected by terrified medical staff or had caused enough incidents that the stations refused to process them. There was also a bonus attached. Hazard pay for cultural ambassadorship in the face of xenobiological prejudice. Jake laughed, punched in the coordinates for his next delivery, and engaged the jump drive. As the stars stretched into lines and the Rust Bucket slipped into faster-than-light travel, he made a mental note to himself. Next time, just lie on the medical forms. It would be easier for everyone involved. Back on Orbital Medical Station, Kepler 2, Dr. Velthus finally stood up from where he'd been sitting on the floor of his examination room. His antennae were crooked, his mandibles ached from stress clicking, and his compound eyes felt strained despite not actually having muscles. Quern oozed through the doorway with a beverage that bubbled gently. I have brought you something calming, Quern said. It is from Earth, actually. They call it chamomile tea. Doctor Velthus took the cup with a trembling claw. From Earth. Of course it is. Tell me, Quern, is it poisonous? The information packet says it contains trace amounts of compounds that are toxic to some species, but generally considered safe for consumption. Trace amounts of poison, the doctor repeated. For relaxation. The humans do love their casual toxins. Dr. Velthus sipped the tea. It was, he admitted reluctantly, quite soothing, which somehow made it worse. Even their recreational beverages were designed to survive their Deathworld biology. He pulled up his schedule for the next week and began systematically canceling any appointments that listed human in the species category. He had earned that much, at least.